All right, we're recording. Hello and welcome to once again part 3 of episode 4. This is a long episode of Zankus Watch podcast. So we are still reacting to the Spaces interview by our dear girl, Tara Reid. It's a 3 hour long interview. We've gotten through 1 hour at this point. We're on part 3. We're doing like 30-minute segments at a time. We may do more if we're not too delayed or I don't chatter too much. Before we go on, I do need to correct a few things. So, in the previous podcast, I mentioned Strom Thurmond. I mentioned that the late Strom Thurmond, Senator Strom Thurmond, gave his papers to the University of Alabama to be unsealed upon his death. I was wrong about that. It's actually Clemson University, which is in the state of Alabama. But Strom Thurmond gave his Senate speeches and all his Senate papers to Clemson University, not the University of Alabama. So I want to correct that. Second thing I need to correct, I've been talking about Rada, who is Tara Reid's lawyer, but one Rada Sterling. And she's been called Tara Reid's lawyer by Megyn Kelly, who tends to do her research pretty well, all of that. However, there has been some information brought to light that I have posted on the Zankus Watch account. This information was posted by Standing Army, who is an excellent source. My thanks to Standing Army. This information shows that Rhoda Sterling may not actually be a lawyer. She did enroll in law school. She never completed it. This is all alleged. I have posted what Standing Army posted to the Zankus Watch account, and obviously you all can make up your own mind. It looked pretty damning from my perspective. It looked pretty damning that Rada actually doesn't have any qualifications to be a lawyer. However, Megyn Kelly called her a lawyer, so I'm just for the sake of ease, just for the sake of not confusing too many people, I'm just going to call her Tara Reid's lawyer. It does not surprise me at all that a fraud like Tara Reid would have a fraudulent lawyer. Any real lawyers tend to dump her pretty quickly because Reid doesn't tend to pay, allegedly, and Reid lies. I'm not even going to say allegedly there. That's been proven several times. All right, so again, you can find out what Standing Army posted about Rada Sterling having no legal training on the Zankus Watch account. What Standing Army posted was that a man by the name of David Hay, I think that's how he pronounces his last name, Haigh, found out that Rada Sterling was who he worked with in an organization called Detained in Dubai. He found out that Sterling apparently did not have a law degree, according to Hay. Again, allegedly. So apparently, according to Hay, he said the reasons for Miss Sterling and me parting company in 2018 are extensive, but center on a fundamental disagreement between us on what sort of campaigning entity we wanted to run. I believe that justice and protection of human rights in the UAE and elsewhere in the Gulf should be provided on the basis of need, not on who can pay or attract a good story. I wanted Detained in Dubai, that's our organization, Detained in Dubai, to be a genuine not-for-profit NGO, not a for-profit company with a sole shareholder, Miss Sterling. I was also concerned about Miss Sterling's tendency to use high-profile cases to gain free publicity, referring to herself as a lawyer, when in reality I discovered was that she wasn't a lawyer, isn't a lawyer, didn't go to any law school, and didn't even graduate with a law degree. So that's pretty damning as an accusation against Rhoda Sterling. Again, it's an allegation. It's all alleged, but it's a pretty straightforward accusation about Sterling's qualifications as a lawyer. She's still calling herself a lawyer. Megyn Kelly called her a lawyer. I'm just for the sake of expediency, I'm going to call her a lawyer in a podcast, but by all means, go to Zankus Watch account, see what Standing Army has posted. Go ahead and form your own opinions. So, let's get on with the Spaces interview and our reaction. We were talking about I think Tara Reid was talking about the Violence Against Women Act, blah, blah, blah. Trying to, essentially repeating a lot of anti-Biden talking points.
It's just interesting that Yeah, the hypocrisy around it. And just, when you look at Democrats in general, they talk about Me Too. Well, Me Too only applies to, apparently, the victims of Republican predators or conservative predators.
All right, we covered this in the last podcast. Obviously, many Democrats have resigned as a result of Me Too, so this is a complete lie. Senator Al Franken resigned. Um, Governor Andrew Cuomo resigned. Democratic contributor Harvey Weinstein is now in jail for the rest of his life. I mean, obviously, this is just a talking point. Republican predators like Matt Gaetz, he's still in office. He hasn't been forced to resign. Trump lost an election. He never was forced to resign, even though he had accusations coming out of his ears. He lost an election. That's why he's no longer in office, so he's running again. So obviously, what Tara Reid is saying here is false.
Predators. It doesn't apply to Democratic elites. I mean, look how the Cuomo survivors were treated. Look how I was treated. Look, you can.
Well, first of all, I think most of the I don't know a lot about the Cuomo survivors. I have my doubts about at least one of them. That being said, I do believe the Cuomo survivors were telling the truth. They were far more corroborated, and their claims were investigated, and the I believe the Attorney General of New York backed up their claims. That's sort of what led to the final push with Governor Cuomo, a Democratic governor, resigning. The reason why Reid has not been the reason why her accusation has not led to any resignation by Biden is because her accusations are not credible. What she's talking about is not the difference between Republican and Democratic politicians. What she's talking about is the difference between credible and non credible accusations. Her accusations are not credible.
Look at example after example of how people are treated that come forward about Democrats. So to go back to your original thing about Title IX, though, it's interesting how, yes, how some things can be used as political theater, and also the prop you mentioned. One of the people that came forward was a young woman who he was circulating around college campuses, Biden was, and he sat next to a woman who just had sat down and talked about 2 rapes that she had survived. And when she sat down, he took his hand and put it on her thigh and was really physical with her. And she talked about it. She was one of the women that came forward and talked about how uncomfortable that made her. She had just talked about being violated violently, and then he did that. And
all right, so she's once again talking about one of the 8 women who have talked about Biden, like, not really respecting their personal space. Again, these women were considered credible. The thing was that what they were discussing was, first of all, not illegal, and second of all, they were discussing a form of a form of sort of being in someone's personal space that was considered acceptable by male politicians in the 80s and 90s, but soon became less acceptable in the early 21st century. I mean, Biden talked about it, he addressed the nation, and this woman that Reid is using right now had said, when she discussed this, she said, "This is not disqualifying. I don't think Biden should resign. This is just something that I want Biden to know about so that in the future he doesn't violate people's personal space." But of course, Reid and Anthony Zankis, who is constantly posting about this woman, use her story against her will. I'm not going to say against her will because she chose to make it public, but they keep using her story to try and smear Biden. When in the same story, this same woman said, "Listen, I don't consider this disqualifying. I don't think he should resign. I don't think he should drop out. I'm just going forward with this to tell Biden, hey, could you please keep your hands to yourself?" This sort of hugging, this sort of, being, resting your hand on my shoulders, this sort of thing, which Biden does with both men and women, by the way. There's a picture of Biden doing this with like a male police officer as well. He's just a very sort of huggy, kind of Irish Catholic, grandpa-ish guy. And what this woman was saying was, hey, listen, times have changed. This sort of, hugginess, this sort of affection is now less accepted among male politicians. Let's move forward with that in the future. Could you not do that? And Biden said yes. But this young woman did say specifically, this is not disqualifying. I don't think Biden should resign. I'm just talking about how times have changed.
He was the sponsor of this act. So it's really interesting how he just doesn't, he doesn't see that anything applies to him legally.
And again, I have to reiterate that the Violence Against Women Act that Biden wrote and got passed, has saved so many women's lives. They have helped so many women escape abusive marriages and abusive partnerships. They have really helped the lives of women. And the idea that Tara Reade's saying, like, oh, he didn't write it, his staffers wrote it, like, the fact that she's tearing that down really reveals that this whole thing is not about any type of incident that happened to her, which frankly, again, is a lie. It's an anti-Biden op, and her motivations here are so clear, are so insultingly transparent, that nothing really that she says should be taken seriously. She's already been debunked with her original accusation. She's been debunked several, basically at any point in her life. She's been seen as someone who throws around rape accusations as revenge, as ways to try and advance herself. If men don't do what she wants them to do, she will accuse them of rape. She did it with Biden. She did it with her ex-husband. And if anybody pushes against her, she'll try to threaten them with a lawsuit. She'll threaten them with silencing women. She likes to try and threaten and intimidate people. That's the sort of person she is. And when she's revealed to be fraudulent, she'll say she's, being, violated. She says that she's being attacked. And the fact is, her lies have been very easily debunked. And we're going to see this further on in this Spaces interview, especially now that Brian Krassenstein has entered. I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, Sarah, and thanks a lot. So first of all, I want to make it clear that I don't know if your claims against Joe Biden are true or false. But when evaluating claims made against an individual, you have to look at that person's history and their honesty. Now, I know
that's absolutely true.
Know for a fact that you lie. And how do I know that? Because you told a dangerous lie about myself and my family. When we published articles about you in 2020, instead of refuting our claims, you claimed that Ed and I threatened to kill you and threatened to kill your daughter, and we hacked you, and that Democrats are paying us. Then when we pushed you further, you claimed you had it on recording and that you posted online.
Brian, you have an FBI report against you, and you have a stalking report against you. You went in person and were knocking on people's doors asking about.
Ready? So post this report against us and post the recording so everybody can see how horrible a person I am since I threatened to kill you. How about that, Tara?
Yeah, and post all those death threats you were talking about earlier. You said people were giving you death threats. I haven't seen those death threats. Post those too.
There is a recording.
Let's hear it.
Play
it right now.
Or your
play it
brother.
right now.
Let her reply, Brian. Go ahead, Tara. Do you have the recording?
I don't have the recording. The FBI does.
Wait.
I'm
so
not
you just handed
somewhere
the
near the
recording
recording
without keeping a copy of it?
I have it somewhere, but the FBI has it in a report, Brian and Eddie, and I believe it was your brother. And you didn't call me. You called my daughter in the middle of the night
and you threatened to kill her.
You know what? I was actually in the space when that accusation was made. So just as an outside observer, I will say that the accusation was indeed that the call was made to Tara by Brian or Ed, and that Tara was going to present that recording, and it was never presented. So that was my recollection of that incident.
Yes, Mari.
Okay, this is the part that was posted on Twitter where the spaces really start to go south for our dear girl. Let's keep listening.
You told Mario you would send him the recording and you would post it publicly. So I'm still waiting for you to post that or refute or take back what you said about me, threatening you and your daughter's life, because I would never do that.
Brian, did you go to Watsonville, California?
I've never been to Watsonville, California in my life.
Did you knock on doors?
I've never done anything like that.
Times reporter? Did you pose as a New York Times reporter?
No, I did not.
You're denying that you posed as a New York Times reporter.
100%.
Do you have documentation, Tara, that you can share with us, showing that Brian?
Of course not. I don't have documentation with me right now. I'm 6,000.
See, this is really so revealing because it shows how she will automatically accuse people without absolutely any evidence. So she starts talking. She makes accusations about this person did a death threat, this person did a this person did a that. When Brian Krassenstein started speaking and started putting this clip online of what he said to her in the Spaces interview, a lot of people said Brian should have pushed back against her original accusation against Joe Biden. I say no, because even though she's been debunked, there is a sort of there's bad optics around a man telling a woman that she's lying about being raped. There's bad optics with that. Even if she is lying about being raped, it just sits badly, especially among other women, to hear a man say, hey, you're lying about that. Even if she is lying about that. What Brian is doing is pushing back from a very justifiable position of rage. Because he's not talking about Reid's accusation against Biden. He's talking about Reid's accusation against him, Brian. He's saying, you smeared me. You slandered me without any evidence. You have no evidence. You have no recording. All you did was try to intimidate me because I put up an article trying to say that what you're talking about with Biden doesn't wash. What you're talking about with Biden is completely contradicted by many other statements you have made in the past. He put up that article, and she appears to have responded, allegedly, by saying he threatened her daughter. Other people are backing up Brian Krassenstein, saying, like, yeah, you did threaten him. You said you had a recording. You said you would post that recording. You have not posted that recording. That looks bad for her. So for people saying, hey, Brian Krassenstein should have addressed her original accusation against Biden, well, first of all, he has. Second of all, however, there is bad optics. Even when the facts are on our side, there is bad optics with a man telling a woman that she's lying about being raped. He doesn't want that. He wants to talk about what specifically she accused him of. And I think that's great, because here's the thing. Rape victims, you never get a perfect victim. You know, victims can have drug abuses in their past. They can have committed their own crimes. They could have committed petty theft. They could have lied in the past. But if the victim who has the allegation has a history of very serious allegations, if that victim has a history of constantly throwing out very serious allegations, usually to get attention or to try and boost herself or boost her clout or boost her victimhood narrative, if she has that background and Brian now shows her immediately flinging out an accusation to protect herself because he is pinning her down. He is pinning her down on a very serious accusation she has made against him. When that victim or that alleged victim has a past of flinging out serious accusations, that past needs to be examined before anyone makes any type of conclusion about what her original accusation is. You know, we were not there in 1993. We don't know what Biden did to her. However, considering her past behavior of flinging out serious accusation against men who refuse to do what she asks them to do, it is very likely that she is lying.
1,000 miles away, but you know who does is the FBI.
Okay. So you're saying you spoke to the FBI?
They have the recording
but
as well.
But you went to Moscow to get away from the FBI.
And you thought you were calling me, and you called my daughter and terrorized her in the middle of the night.
I called your daughter when I was doing a report in 2020. It was a casual conversation. I did not threaten her life. I asked her a simple question. I didn't realize she was picking up.
She was called in the middle of the night.
I called you, and she picked up.
Can you say what your daughter was told supposedly by Brian? Because to threaten, an allegation of having someone's life threatened, regardless if it's you or your daughter, that is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal, and
now other people are backing up Brian, and that's good. Notice that a lot of people who are giving her space to speak, a lot of people who are giving her space to talk, a lot of people who are platforming her on this Spaces interview are now, when seeing this back and forth between Brian Krassenstein and Tara Reid, they're taking Brian's side. I think any person who doesn't know much about this situation and is listening to this back and forth, they're also going to take Brian's side. Brian appears to be telling the truth here. I mean, he does admit to calling her daughter and asking for an interview. He's a reporter. He admits to saying, I called you, your daughter picked up, I asked her some questions. that would be sort of in line for a journalist, and the Krassensteins are journalists. They're a bit muckrakers, but they're journalists. And she's saying, no, you threatened her life, which is odd, especially since now a lot of other people are backing up Brian, saying, hey, you've made this accusation against Brian before. You said you had a recording. You said you would post this recording. You have not posted the recording. When people are asking for that recording, you're saying, well, the FBI has it. It's in a report, but I don't have it.
There's a police report made about it, and Brian knows it. And Brian
wait, how do I know
Brian,
that?
I'm going to ask you this: do you have Brian? Did you sign a NDA during the 2020 election
About what?
about who you worked for?
No, I did not. I didn't work for
irrelevant to threatening your life
anybody
or
in the
your daughter's
2020
life.
election. I worked for myself. I had 2 businesses. I've never worked for anybody in my life.
Are you denying that you called my daughter in the middle of the night? Or was that your brother?
I called your daughter. I was calling you. She picked up. I asked her casual questions about some allegations
At
against
midnight?
her. I never threatened her life. I had never intimidated her. I didn't say anything at all that would even make her think that I was threatening her life or your life.
Actually,
it was in the afternoon, and it wasn't at night.
But Tara,
My daughter
what you said to your daughter that was threatening? I'm just curious.
She got called in the middle of the night, and it was someone laughing hysterically and then threatening my life, and she was terrified.
So this is interesting. She has direct quotes from her memory from Biden administration saying, oh, Tara, we will fucking destroy you if you go forward. So she is able to recall these direct quotes, we will fucking destroy you. But when asked, what exactly did Brian Krassenstein say that threatened your daughter's life, she's being purposefully vague. Oh, he laughed and then he said something about threatening her life. Well, what exactly did he say? Notice she's not answering that question.
And, had thought that, it was someone very bad.
Can you tell me exactly the words that were said that threatened her, please?
It was like hysterical laughing, and from what I could recall, she just said it was someone threatening to kill me or kill, whoever answered the phone. So in other words, she thought it was me, that they were directing that towards.
One moment, Brian.
Here she says, so she thought it was just somebody who was thought it was me. And then Brian says, so how did you know it was me then? How did you know it was me? How are you so sure it was me? There we go. You see, again, she's stumbling over herself with this accusation. She just has to get an accusation out against a man who is just refusing to do what she wants that man to do or refusing to shut up. She, again, always portrays herself as a victim when she's backed up against a wall through her own lies.
So she wasn't sure because she answered the phone. Apparently it was meant for me is what she thought, but she wasn't sure. Could have been meant for her. But what we did was we had the phone recording. We took it to the FBI, and the FBI made a report. They have it. It's there. I could FOIA it. It's not important to me because I'm going through other things right now.
Well, wait a second. So her daughter recorded it. Her daughter didn't say exactly what was happening. And she doesn't say why her daughter thinks it was Brian Krassenstein. Again, this sort of shows that she has a reflexive lying impulse. She will always lie to try to bring down people who refuse to buy her stories.
Well,
and frankly, Brian and Eddie Krassenstein have a history of terrorism.
Will you say here in the space that you will FOIA it?
Yeah, actually, why don't you anyone here could FOIA it. All they have to do is contact the FBI in Northern California.
Don't you have a copy of it? I mean, you're the one that gave it to him. You said you have it somewhere. Wouldn't it be easier for you to find?
There's Lev Parnas. There's Lev Parnas talking to her. Again, Lev Parnas is, I think, on the Krassenstein side here, and he's making some very good points.
Somewhere, yeah, it'd be probably somewhere in email or somewhere like that. But I don't have the phone
somebody
it was originally on.
Tara, somebody that went through a lot of myself, that has a lot of doubt by a lot of people. I think the best way to prove people wrong is by facts. And that's one of the ways I've been doing it. So I think, this is a serious allegation. And if somebody accused of me of threatening somebody's life, I mean, I wouldn't be so nonchalant. I would make sure to go find that recording and put it on in his face and stop the conversation. I think
that's why. You're saying now that Brian should go do it. So that's another thing.
No, I'm not saying Brian. No, I'm saying Tara should do it. I'm saying Brian.
He's saying Tara.
Tara, I'm sorry, Tara.
Let me end this now. I will say that her attorney in the US will make that application, and hopefully we'll hear back from them with confirmation of the original FBI report that was made.
But this is my. I don't understand that. Why do we need to make applications? I mean, Tara is the one that has the recording. Wouldn't it be easier for her just?
I don't have the same phone anymore. Hey, Brian, I have a question for you. Did you purchase one of my own phone numbers?
No, I did
one
not.
Of my old
no,
numbers?
I did not.
Again, with the same accusations. You see, here's the thing. She's getting pinned down by a lot of people. She's getting pinned down now by Lev Parnas. Also, again, people listening to this podcast won't see what's going on, but Catherine Bronsky, one of the speakers, appears to have taken Brian Krassenstein's side. She's putting the 100% emoji when Brian was speaking. Even Sphinx, that co-host who appeared to have a great deal of sympathy for Tara Reid, was putting a 100 emoji when Lev Parnas was telling Tara, hey, post that recording. Listen, if you're going to make a serious accusation like this, you better have some facts to back it up. You just can't accuse him. You can't just say, oh, the FBI has it. Oh, it's in my email somewhere. Well, I mean, I don't have that recording. I have a new phone. I don't know where my old phone is. Blah, blah, blah. He says, no, when you make those accusations, you need to have your recording with you. And Sphinx, who earlier in the Spaces conversation appeared very sympathetic towards Reid, Sphinx put a 100% emoji on that. So she was taking Lev Parnas' side. That's interesting, because now Tara's starting to see that people in this conversation are beginning to turn against her, because she has not shown herself to be trustworthy, especially when Brian came in and said, hey, listen, you accused me personally. Let's go aside from Biden. Biden's literally like the most powerful man in the world right now. He can take care of himself. Let's put the Biden thing aside for a moment. You accused me personally. You better back that up. This is me. This is me. This is my life. This is my reputation that you are trying to destroy. I want to see you back up your accusation with facts, because I didn't do any of this. It's very powerful what Brian's doing right now. And the fact is, Tara's doing nothing to help herself here. She's just continuing to accuse him. When people say, well, where is this recording of him threatening your daughter's life? Where is this? She's saying, I don't have it. I'm just going to continue to, it's in the FBI. Just FOIA it. Why don't you just FOIA it? Just request it. It's an FBI. It's in a police report. I don't have it. And Lev Parnas says, why would you not keep a copy of that recording? So this is necessary. This shows the sort of integrity that Tara Reid has. When somebody that Tara Reid has accused comes up and says, show me your evidence, she will not show that evidence. She'll just continue to play the victim and accuse the man, but she will not show the evidence. And this speaks volumes about her original accusation against Joe Biden. Far more so than going into the nitty-gritty of the accusation saying, oh, well, this incident with Biden in 1993, it took place in a room that literally does not exist in the Capitol. You kept changing your story. It doesn't make sense. You've been fraudulent. People have not corroborated you. The only person who did corroborate you was outed as lying by another reporter. We can go into all that nitty-gritty. We have in the previous podcast. But what Brian Krassenstein is saying here, and it's important, what Brian Krassenstein is saying here is, let's talk about other accusations that you've made, and you've made a lot of them in your life. What about the accusation that you made against me? Where's the evidence against that? And the way she's handling this really shows. It speaks to why all of this, her accusation against Biden, her accusation against the ex-husband, her accusation against Democrats, her accusations against the Democratic Party, the DNC, against the FBI, all of it is just complete garbage. She's a con artist. It's either the whole world against her, it's either the whole world is against her, or it's her. It's her. She's the one who refuses to take accountability. She's the one who has always played the victim her entire life. She's the one who has always lied. Which is more likely?
You're lying, and I have proof of that as well.
For what purpose?
You realize that reporters can get people's phone numbers through various means. You don't.
No. There was a previous previous phone number that I had, and Brian and his brother went through a list of all the people that were on it and called them. And Brian, you know what? You're
just lying here, Tara. You
no, you're not. No, I'm not lying. Brian,
Tara, answer this. You said your daughter got the phone call. How did you know it was me? Did I say it was me? Then
no, she didn't know it was
some random person called your daughter and threatened her and you said it was me. So how?
But Tara, even you had admitted in that space that you were not 100% sure that that was Brian and Ed, and then you speak with such certainty, which it's like it's kind of baffling.
No. I said I wasn't sure it was Brian. It sounded like Eddie. It sounded like his voice. Their voices are very distinct, but Eddie has a different kind of higher pitched voice. And so what I said was I wasn't sure if it was Brian or Eddie. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she's definitely spinning out here. She's sort of crumbling a bit.
Definitely, Brian, you know that you terrorized my family in 2019 and 2020. You over and over again. You never came to me. You never, with integrity, came to me and asked me about what happened.
We reached out to you several times, and you refused to answer even the slightest questions. Tara, that is the truth. Now, you're making these horrible allegations against me. You posted it to Twitter for thousands of people to see. You called
Brian, you know that I'm telling the truth. You know that you and your brother are engaged in this kind of terrorizing behavior. It's been published before.
She does this gaslighting a lot. Whenever she's backed up against a wall, whenever one of her accusers shows her irrefutable evidence that she's lying, she says, you know I'm telling the truth. You know I'm telling the truth. She did this with the Biden accusation when Biden came forward and said, listen, this never happened. When people came forward and said, listen, you're not getting corroborated. Nobody's corroborating you. Nobody's, remembers this happening. There isn't even you're describing this happening in a room that doesn't even exist in the Capitol hall, in the hallway between the subway station and the Capitol Rotunda. And then she just responded with, Biden knows this happened. He knows it happens. This is a constant technique she uses whenever she gets backed into a corner, or she gets pinned down with some very hard evidence that she's lying. She then gaslights, saying, but you know this happens. You know I'm telling the truth.
I mean, I've never been arrested or charged with a crime in my life. Stop using that as a excuse.
You did not get arrested, Brian?
I've never been arrested in my life.
Okay, look, we cannot make accusations against people. I mean, this is a really serious thing. To make accusations against people without proof and evidence, that is I think this is something we can all agree on.
Oh, interestingly enough, Sphinx, the co-host that was incredibly sympathetic towards Tara Reid at the beginning, saying, I believe this happened to you. When someone else said, we just can't make accusations against people without proof, she again put a 100% emoji next to her name. She apparently is going by Brian. This is very interesting. People are saying, listen, we're going to give you the opportunity to talk. We're not going to go against you. But when Brian came up and said, you made a massive accusation against me, I deserve the right to defend myself. And he starts essentially showing that she can't back up her accusation. And consequently that she has a habit of flinging accusations and flinging really bad accusations for her own self-interest. Sphinx now, who is sympathetic towards Reid at the beginning, is now putting 100% emojis when Brian is talking, or when people supporting Brian is talking, saying, hey, you can't just make wild accusations like that. Sphinx clearly is turning against Reid. This is a really powerful piece of tape. Let's keep going.
That we do not want in our society. So if we make serious accusations like that, we need to...
Oh my God, that guy Nick Sorter, who was such a douchebag at the beginning, saying oh my God, Tara, you're so brave, you're so this. He's also putting a thumbs up emotion. People are backing Brian Krassenstein in this part. Nick, who was kissing Tara's ass at the beginning of the Spaces conversation, he's putting up a thumbs up emoji when it comes to we can't just accuse people of things. Sphinx, who is also doing a lot of Tara ass kissing, put up 100% emoji. Everybody's supporting Brian in this. You can really see just the tide turn against Tara Reid in this Spaces conversation. This is fascinating.
to back that up with evidence. And in these spaces,
Catherine, this guy has been hounding me for years.
Okay, but you need to present evidence, right?
Like, no, I don't need to do shit.
Well, yes,
I don't need to do anything.
That is not.
I don't need to do shit. Yes, you do. You do have to present evidence. Oh my god. Yeah, Tara is like so crumbling. I don't need to do shit. I don't need to do shit. Yeah, if you're gonna, I can accuse whatever I want. I can do whatever I want, and you just have to believe me.
I mean, like,
that's a pretty fundamental thing.
I mean, it's not up to him to produce evidence that he hasn't done what he's being accused of. It's when someone's being accused of, let's say, threatening someone's life. There's no way for him to prove he didn't do it. So he's got to. So the person who's saying that you did this has to come with something. So that, I think that's the point that Catherine perhaps might be making, or at least I'm making here.
So Tara, you say that Brian and or Ed made these threats. My question to you is, for what purpose and on whose behalf? Why would they make these threats on their own behalf? What reason, what context?
Mic's off.
Just have to unmute. There you go.
My mic is off? That is the cheapest crap. That is the cheapest technique I've ever seen. She just got cooked. She just got absolutely skinned alive, and then she's like, my mic is off. Like, she's thinking as hard as she can. It's like, I'm sorry, technical difficulties. That is the cheapest technique I've ever heard. Plus, check out Rhoda Sterling. She's just letting her client get skinned alive by these people, and she's not doing anything. She's not even just intervening and saying, okay, you know what? She's not going to answer any more questions from Brian. Like, Rhoda's not doing anything to protect her client from Brian Krassenstein. You know, a good lawyer who knows that her client is vulnerable in this respect, that her client, you know, is easily going to start filling out accusations, knows my client should not be answering questions because my client is going to incriminate herself. And Rhoda's just letting Tara get skinned alive. It's fantastic. I love it. Keep being a potato, Rhoda. This is why I call you a potato. You're just fucking sitting there and letting your client get skinned alive. And I love it because your client is just an absolute horrifying con artist, and she deserves everything. But listen, this conversation just turned, and it is awesome. I love to see it.
There you go. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Technical difficulty. She has to think of something. Technical difficulties.
You just have to click unmute. Go ahead.
I did, but it kept getting off.
Oh, more technical difficulties.
Apologies.
You know what's interesting is how the Krassenstein brothers use their political clout to sideline conversations and cause chaos. They're chaos creators. There's police reports. My lawyer said that they would FOIA them.
Show us the police reports.
But I wanted to know, Brian. For what purpose would they have to make
why would he threaten you
or your daughter?
Why would they want to say to kill you?
Right.
I don't know, but they were terrorizing us at the time. So, you know, so I left it with the police. I'm sorry?
I mean, it's called witness intimidation, and this kind of thing happens all the time.
Okay, Rhoda finally stirs from her potato-like state, saying like, maybe I should actually insert myself here. You know, a lawyer at this point would have ended the Spaces interview. A lawyer at this point, a real lawyer, would have ended the Spaces interview, saying, you know what, my client's answered enough questions. Thank you so much for the Spaces interview. We will be saying goodnight to you. That's what an actual lawyer would have done. The fact that Rhoda just stood there and let Tara be skinned alive is absolutely fantastic.
It's prevalent. Many people have
talking about. You're just making crap up, though. That's the thing. You've been saying this for months that we.
Brian, I made a police report about it. I made a federal police report about it.
So you made a police report, and the police never
I made an FBI report, not just a police report.
So where is it? Where is it? You would have.
It's on record. You can find it.
Brian, we've already said we will we'll FOIA that.
You don't need to FOIA it. It's a public document.
Okay, now Ed Krassenstein, who's Brian Krassenstein's brother, has just entered the chat. Alrighty.
You
would have it.
You do.
Can I say something? Can I say something real fast?
No.
Can I say something real fast?
If
if we can get it on file, if we can hound through Tara's emails, we will get it. Otherwise, we will submit a FOIA request. So that's case closed. Leave the ball in our court.
We were frankly, what I don't understand.
I'm going to just
what I don't understand is why Brian and Eddie were never called by the police, by the FBI, when I went to them for more than one report. So when we
maybe because you're not credible. Maybe because the police know what it's like when, people who want to intimidate other people by contacting the police make up bullshit reports. They will have to put together a report. They will have to say, hey, this person made a complaint. So there may be a report on file. But they're not, the police and the FBI aren't going to contact the Krassensteins when they're like, we don't see any link. We don't see any reason to contact the Krassensteins. We don't think the Krassensteins have broken the law. All we see is one woman who likes to fling out bad accusations, trying to use the law enforcement to intimidate reporters who are finding holes in her story. And she's like, why didn't the police contact them? Oh my God. Is there a manager for the police I can speak to? Why didn't they contact them? I was threatened, kind of, sort of, in a recording that I may or may not have.
When we do the FOIA, you'll see more than one report. And it sounds like Brian and Eddie were never even contacted or called.
Maybe they
cry about that.
didn't think you were credible, and that's why they didn't pursue it.
Thank you, Lev Parnas. Yeah, maybe they didn't think you were credible, and that's why they didn't pursue it. Damn straight. Let's actually listen to that again. I'm going to go back 15 seconds.
That she had a recording with her. She had. That's the thing. You've been saying this for months
Brian, I made a police report about it. I made a federal police report about it.
So you made a police report, and the police never
contacted you. I made an FBI report, not just a police report.
So where is it? Where is it? You would have.
It's on record. You can find it.
Brian, we've already said we will we'll FOIA that.
You don't need to FOIA it. It's a public document.
You would have. You do.
Can I say something real fast? Can I say something real fast?
If we can get it on file, if we can hound through Tara's emails, we will get it. Otherwise, we will submit a FOIA request. So that's case closed. Leave the ball in our court.
Frankly, what I don't understand.
I'm going to just
what I don't understand is why Brian and Eddie were never called by the police, by the FBI, when I went to them for more than one report. So when we do the FOIA, you'll see more than one report. And it sounds like Brian and Eddie were never even contacted or called.
Maybe they didn't think you were credible, and that's why they didn't pursue it. Could that be?
I gave them a recording.
So I just want to say something. So in that Twitter space with Mario, I actually still have the link to the recording for those who want to listen to it. Tara specifically claimed that she had a recording with her. She had the recording, and Mario said, post it. And you said, okay, I'll send it to you, Mario. The next...
back to the recording. Yeah, she never sent anything. She never has anything.
Day, I DM'd Mario. Mario said she never sent it to me. You claimed you had it. You claimed that you were going to send it to them. You claimed you would post it. It never happened. Do you know why it never happened?
I claimed that the FBI had it. I don't.
No, you claimed you had it. Should I play it right now?
Now, again, you're hijacking the space, Eddie.
You're hijacking the space, Eddie. Let me just make my accusations against you and let other people continue to kiss my ass as a brave, beautiful Me Too victim. It's how I live my life. You're hijacking this space, Ed. You're terrorizing me. She is very close to accusing Ed Krassenstein of rape right now. That's the next step here. First, you're terrorizing me. You're making me feel unsafe. I have recordings. I'm going to the FBI. Ed, you are about to get a rape accusation flung your way by our Miss Tara Reid, because that's basically when she gets pushed hard enough. Be prepared for the R word. Just buckle up.
Tara, can I play the recording right now?
Can you post the link, please, to this space that you have?
Oh, looks like the Krassensteins have receipts. See how easy that is when you're actually telling the truth? When you have the facts on your side, it's very easy to have the receipts. So the Krassensteins have the receipts. She doesn't have the recording, but the Krassensteins do.
An hour 18 it starts. Everybody can go listen to what she said, her own words.
Yes, and you both are terrorizing people, and you know it. And you've had article after article about, yeah, you specifically hounded my family and me, and you scared the crap out of my daughter. And you did make threats on me, and you know you did. It was enough to scare me enough to go to the FBI, and I didn't know you. I didn't know who you were. I found out later about your history and about who you are.
What's our history?
And if anyone...
And you don't even say why you think it was the Krassensteins. You say your daughter got a phone call that had laughter. Your daughter's life was threatened, though you don't say the exact words that were used. And you went to the FBI apparently as an intimidation tactic. And you didn't even say why you think it was the Krassensteins. Did you trace their number or something? What happened? Why do you think those are the Krassensteins?
Can you elaborate on their history?
If anyone Googles your names...
What's their history?
If you Google your names, Brian...
No, don't say Google it. Don't say Google it. That's just as cheap a deflection as, ooh, technical difficulties. Ooh, my mic's not working. That's another cheap deflection. Don't say Google it. Say exactly what's going on. I got my receipts. I know why you weren't. I know why you're lying. I've spent, this is like my third section of episode 4 of the Zenkus Watch podcast. I know why you're lying. I have all the facts at my fingertips. Now, you can't say Google it. I can't say Tara Reid's lying. Google it. No, I know why Tara Reid's lying. I know that she said I know that she changed her story from 2019 to 2020. I know that she said the assault took place in a room that literally does not exist on the Capitol. I know she said that her friend who corroborated her was later outed by a reporter for lying. I know that she has a fraudulent degree. I know that she has committed perjury. I know that people have been released from jail because the Monterey district attorney found out she gave false testimony, and they could not keep those people. They shortened those people's sentences because they were convicted on expert witness testimony by Tara Reid that turned out to be false. I have all the facts. I'm not saying Google it. I am putting out all the facts in the podcast. You do not say Google it. Do not say Google it. When people ask for what exactly the facts are. Do not say, my mic is broken, I'm muted, when people ask you a question that you can't answer. Don't do that. Tell him. Never say Google it.
You can see that you have a history of intimidating people,
like who?
Terrorizing
who did we
people,
ever
hounding
intimidate
people.
in our lives? Name one person.
Google your name right now, Brian.
Tell us. I don't. Name one instance. Name one instance from a.
Tara, I think what everybody's trying to get at. I mean, you're the one that's making the accusations against people, and there's some serious allegations, just like against Joe Biden. So your credibility is very important for you to be able to proceed with your allegations, and you're not being right now credible because you're saying, "Why don't you Google it?" I think you're the one that should be like, "Hey, this is what you did, and here's the facts."
Thank you, Lev Parnas. There you go, Lev bringing the facts. I knew he would start speaking facts.
I mean, and right now, you're not coming up with any facts. What you're doing is throwing a lot of accusations. And to make matters worse, I mean, you fled to a country that as we all know, doesn't have a stellar reputation when it comes to free speech or protection of women's rights. The media is Kremlin controlled. And doesn't it look like, worry you that you might be being used as a pawn in their attempt to interfere in our U.S. election here? And then when they're done with you, you could be the next one on the chopping board?
So I just posted.
Huge facts there. You know he got right to the nub there. Good old Lev Parnas.
I just posted a link above. You feel free to listen to it.
All right. Eddie and Brian,
Let me finish saying what I'm saying so everybody can listen if they want. If they don't want, they don't have to listen. 1 hour and 18 minutes in until 1 hour and 25 minutes and 56 seconds in is when Tara Reid claims she has the recording, claims she'll post it. So go ahead and listen to that. I also have DMs from Mario where he said that you told him you'd send him the recording and you never did. I can post those as well.
Post them. Go ahead. I told Mario that
post them in the chat, please.
He is going to post them. I mean, she's like, yeah, post them. Go ahead. Like, you're not going to stop him from posting them. He is going to post them. He is going to, you have no choice but to see the receipts about how you lied.
Yeah. And the FBI has the recording. I mean, so you'll get the recording. And not only that, but it's somewhere on in my email.
But how do you know it was me? You didn't answer that question.
How did I know it was you? It was during the time, Brian, that you were hounding me. So you and Eddie Krassenstein
there are a million
online
reports on you at the time, Tara. Then
and we recognized your
media
voice.
was reporting on you. How do you know it wasn't somebody else?
We recognized your. By the way, you're hijacking this space. This isn't about you.
You're hijacking this space. No. He's just asking questions that you can't answer. The ass kissing was for hour number 1. Believe me, it was a very tedious hour. I have been listening to the ass kissing for a long time now, and it's about time that we get to hour 2, which is accountability hour, apparently. And you know what? You had your dessert first. You had the ass kissing hour 1. Now it's time for the vegetables.
Brian, and it's not about you, Eddie.
No, Tara, it's about you, but it's about your credibility.
We realize that you are a Biden supporter. We realize that you work for Democrats.
But Tara, I don't think that has anything to do with who they support. I think
absolutely has everything to do with it. And again, you're hijacking.
Tara, no, we're talking about your credibility. You're coming out and making some serious accusations, and they're pushing back at you.
I made a police report.
Okay, so where's the copy of it? I mean, when I make a police report and you get a copy of the police report.
No, you do not get a copy of it.
Of course you do.
You do not get a copy of it.
You absolutely do. When you make a report.
Absolutely not.
But Karen, you just claimed you had the report, but you lost it. You just said you had it and you lost it.
I did not claim I had it and lost it.
You did. That's what you just said like 10 minutes ago.
Okay, so you said you had the report and you lost it, and now she's saying actually you don't get a copy of the police report when you make it. I've made police reports before. I absolutely could have asked for a copy once I got it. I didn't ask for a copy, so I didn't get it. But yeah, again, this is necessary. This exchange is necessary. It shows just that she's a constant liar, and she's constantly flinging out accusations that should never be taken seriously.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I didn't say that. I'm talking about the voice.
She said it's somewhere there. She had a phone that she doesn't have access to.
Look, as we said, we will check whether we can get a copy urgently from Tara. Alternatively, we will do a FOIA request. So let's stop talking about whether or not.
What about the recording? When is that going to be?
What is it you were going to check the email to see if it was in her email? What was that about?
What I said is we will check whether Tara can get access to her files. Obviously, some of them are back in the US. She's stuck in Russia now. If we can get an access,
is the copy of the
she's not stuck in Russia. She can return to the US whenever she wants to. She hasn't been barred from entering the US. She just chooses not to because she knows she has a warrant out for her arrest, and she's dodging that warrant. You know, at this point, I think it would be better for her to go to the US, get arrested, get bailed out, go to the press talking about how she's being... and then just fight it. It'll be several years before it goes to trial. It would be better for her to be in the U.S. right now. I mean, it would be better for her to be in the U.S. right now. And instead, she's quote-unquote stuck in Russia. Maybe she doesn't have enough money to bail herself out. Maybe that's it. I think this is absolutely hilarious, by the way.
You say she's stuck in Russia. She's there on
Just a moment. I'm going to have you speak to that, Rada, and then we're going to go to hands that have been up. But go ahead, Rada.
So she's currently in Russia. If we are able to access her files that pertains to this, then we will do so. If not, we will make a FOIA request. But any further conversation on this issue is distractional. We've already said that we will do that. So let's close that.
But I don't understand, rather, as a lawyer. I mean, just because she's in Russia, she doesn't have access? She's limited to being able to...
I don't have access to some
Again, this is distractional and it's irrelevant. We've already said we will do it, so let's end it.
Well, as her lawyer, I think it's very relevant because it brings her credibility at stake because of her accusations.
Lev, we all know that you're pro-Ukraine. Stop.
Lev, we know you're pro-Ukraine. He's making some good points. How dare you question me? Any person who questions Tara Reid is just pro-Ukraine. By the way, any decent person is going to be pro-Ukraine. Even people who believe Tara Reid are pro-Ukraine, because Ukraine is a country that's essentially in the right here. Ukraine was a country that was invaded. But the fact is, like, he's saying, listen, this speaks to her credibility. She says things that she then lies and says she didn't say. She makes accusations that she can't back up. And she's like, Lev, we all know that you're pro-Ukraine. Nobody was talking about Ukraine. Damn it. Nobody was talking about Ukraine. She is such a clown.
Stop.
Absolutely, I'm pro-Ukraine. I'm pro-USA. I'm pro-America.
And so what you guys are doing is called, because remember, I worked as a Democratic operative. Remember the work that I did.
Yeah, you were a staff aide, and you couldn't even do that job. You kept throwing out your constituents' mail. You threw out your constituents' mail. You were fired for being essentially a bad worker. You then told everyone that the Biden staff bullied you because, I don't know, you were too pretty or something. That's all alleged. But you said, I was bullied. And then back in 1990, back in 2019, you thought, hey, maybe I can use this to try and interfere in the election. I don't think you did that by yourself. I don't think Reed did that by herself. I think she was essentially groomed by Kremlin operatives to do that. So I've spoken about this before, that essentially Tara Reid was groomed by Kremlin operatives to put an accusation against Joe Biden during the Democratic primary, so the Democrats would force out Joe Biden the way they did with Senator Al Franken and put in Bernie Sanders as the Democratic nominee to run against Trump. Of course, Bernie Sanders is so far left and so alienated many vital voting blocks of the Democratic Party. He alienates black voters. He alienates centrist voters. He alienates voters. He alienates a lot of women, too. And they knew he would not win against Trump. That's why they wanted him as a nomination, so that Trump would win and Trump would continue to do whatever the Kremlin wanted. And that's why the Kremlin was trying to get Tara Reid to go forward with this false accusation. I've spoken about this before. So, but as Lev Parnas has pointed out, her credibility is at stake, and she's not credible. He's saying it a lot better than I can, though.
What you're doing is called chaos agent. You're trying.
No, she's not a chaos agent. He's saying what he's doing is pointing out the fact that your story has too many holes in it, and that you're not somebody of any type of credibility. You're not somebody of integrity. You're not somebody of credibility. You're somebody who tends to reflexively fling out really serious accusations against men who don't do what you want them to do.
How long did you work as a Democratic operative, by the way, Tara?
I worked on congressional races right before I worked for Joe Biden.
For how many years?
I have a question to you outside of this. Can I ask a question?
No, you may not ask any more questions.
You may not ask any more questions. There we go. You should have thought of that about 15 minutes ago before you made such a complete fool of yourself. Yeah, I think you've damaged yourself enough, Tara Reid.
Done with the Krassensteins. They're literally off.
Scared of my questions?
Ed, you're not relevant to me.
Hi, Ed, I'll give you just a moment. We have a couple of hands. I'll get to the hands. We'll circle back. But go ahead, Yeti.
Hey, Tara. I hope you're doing well down over in Russia. I just want to circle back to, you were talking about earlier how people won't come forward. Do you think that has anything to do with them just personally feeling for their own safety and have been in Washington for so long and trying to see the corruption? Do you think that's kind of what is keeping people so silent?
This person's called Yeti Jesus, and he sounds like he's drunk.
Well, I think there's a lot of different factors. It depends on the person, but...
Oh, you can really hear that the air has sort of gone out of her balloon. She knows she's just ruined herself. She was all full of beans. She was all cocky and full of confidence, saying, there are other people out there, and they're not talking because they're scared in the first hour. And then the Krassensteins came in and destroyed her, and now... Yeah, she's just not up for it. You can just hear how deflated she is after that Krassenstein interaction. She knows that her credibility's been destroyed for anyone who's been listening to this Spaces conversation.
Obviously, coming forward like I did, and even with the evidence that I had, it was hard. And, and even as much as the Trump supporters got more support publicly, they still have...
What? Stormy Daniels got arrested by pro-Trump cops. E. Jean Carroll lost her job. All other women who accused Trump, or Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, who accused now Justice Kavanaugh, they were ripped to shreds by the media, by the far-right media, actually, by Fox News. This is a complete fabrication on her part. people who accuse far-right politicians don't get a free pass. They get ripped to shred by the far-right media. And guess what? The far-right politicians don't resign. Only Democrats resign. Only Governor Cuomo. Only Senator Al Franken. They resigned when people accuse them.
Have their own sets of threats and problems coming forward. So I think just in general, we have a society that's pretty misogynistic. As far as whistleblowing...
We have a society that's pretty misogynistic, she says, and yet she's the one who's platforming misogynists. She's platforming Caleb Mopin. She's platforming Mitty Hansen. She's platforming Jackson Hinkle. I don't think there are any accusations against Jackson Hinkle, but he said some really horrifying stuff against women on his social media. She's the one platforming these Kremlin bros who are either sex pests, who have rape accusations against them, like with Julian Assange, who have really bad accusations of sexual harassment against them, like Caleb Mopin, or have accusations of being, sex pests around minors, like Mitty Hansen. Oh shit, is that the person I'm talking about? That may not be who I'm talking about. I'm so sorry. I may have said the wrong name there. But Tara Reade has platformed a lot of men who have very serious sex assault accusations against them. And when people bring that to her attention, saying, hey, you accuse other people of ignoring you and your allegation, but you're platforming these men who have much more credible allegations against them, she says, oh, they just have smear campaigns. Those are just smears. I mean, but I think people who have been listening up to this point know that she's very much someone who really can't be trusted.
I noticed that there is a problem. Recently, people have been feeling scared. I mean, obviously, someone went into hiding and it was a whistleblower. Someone else was doing it from a remote location, so was feeling threatened. So yeah, it's a problem if people are allowed to be intimidated and silenced.
Are you saying that Russia doesn't intimidate or silence? I'm just trying to understand what makes you believe that you're safe in Russia and you're able to have free speech, and that's what's confusing to me. Again,
I love Lev Parnas. I could listen to him all day.
I'm against sexual harassment, sexual assault, and I have 2 daughters. I have a wife, and I have a mother and a sister, and I think anybody that does that should be prosecuted and should be dealt with. So, I'm not doubting you or agreeing with you. I don't know enough about your situation to say that, but what concerns me is your credibility.
Yeah, he's right. So I have to say something which is incredibly important. I said Mitty Hansen had accusations against him as being a sex pest towards minors. That is not true. I was talking about Richie Medhurst, and I said Mitty Hansen. I am so sorry. I am so sorry to Mitty Hansen. I know he's not listening to this. As far as I know, he has no accusations against him. I meant to say Rich Medhurst. Rich Medhurst, who is a pro-Kremlin journalist that Tara Reade often platforms. Rich Medhurst has accusations of being a sex pest towards minors. I meant to say Rich Medhurst. So let's just be very clear about that. If I mentioned Mitty Hansen in the past and I meant to say Rich Medhurst, please just assume I'm talking about Rich Medhurst.
I answer that one? I would say that there is one positive thing about countries having disagreements with each other. It means if you're a Russian and you're complaining of Russian oppression, you can go to America or you can go to somewhere else and you can speak about the kind of oppression you've been subjected to in Russia. And same for Americans and Westerners. If they go to Russia, they're able to speak against the...
Well, the Russians go to America because if they speak out against Russian oppression while in Russia, they get arrested at best, or they can just simply get killed. We saw that when people protested against the war in Ukraine back in 2022. They were all arrested. Those protests were squashed by the Putin regime. So the reason why Russians speak out against Russian oppression while they travel to the UK or while they travel to the US is because they know they're safe in the UK. They know they're safe in the US. They know they're safe in these Western countries that have free speech. Now, what Tara Reade is doing is going to Russia. And of course, what she's saying is pure Kremlin propaganda. So of course the Kremlin's going to let her speak. I mean, this is ridiculous, whatever Rada's saying. But Rada's just mostly ridiculous.
Kind of oppression that they've suffered in the West. And I think that's the issue. I mean, obviously, if Tara started talking about Russian oppression from within Russia, she would not be able to do.
I'm actually curious.
Wait, what? What? She said actually if she started talking about if she actually started talking about Russian oppression from within Russia, she wouldn't be able to do so, and then suddenly her mic got cut off? What? Her mic suddenly got cut off when she said if she started talking about Russian oppression from within Russia, of course she would not be able to do so. And she was quite correct about that, but I'm surprised hearing that from Rada. And then her mic suddenly got cut off. Interesting.
Curious, Tara, and I apologize if you've already mentioned this, but have you attempted
subject to
going to Russia? Have you attempted to leave Russia, and has that been and have you been able to do that without issue?
Well, I've only been here for a month, a little over a month, so I haven't attempted to leave Russia under the advice of my attorney. So she was addressing that earlier until we get more clarification.
Okay.
Tara, is your daughter with you there?
Hold on. Do you have any concerns, Tara, that if and when you decide to leave Russia on your own accord, that you may encounter problems that you may not be able to leave on your own accord?
I mean, I'm completely free in Russia. I haven't had any problems, nor have I been approached by the government, nor at all by anyone. So I'm free to go. Like anytime I could get on the plane to America right now. But the question is it safe? And that's, what Rada was speaking to. And then, of course, she referred to the...
No, you're going to get arrested in the U.S., but then you can bail yourself out and fight for a fair trial. And you'll probably have like 1 or 2 years to do the whole lecture circuit, to do the whole podcast circuit while you wait for your trial at this point. And at that point, I mean, the Justice Department may not consider you worth prosecuting. The thing is, you do have a right to a fair trial in the U.S., and in Russia, you're not going to get a fair trial. Now, since you're remaining within the Kremlin talking points, you think you're safe in Russia. Certainly, you won't get arrested by Americans while in Russia or by people who have an extradition treaty with the U.S. That being said, you are in far more danger in Russia because it's in a war zone. It's being slammed by economic sanctions. There are shortages everywhere. You have an untreated aortic aneurysm in a country whose healthcare system is crumbling because it's being flooded by young men coming in from the front in the Ukraine war and just by economic sanctions in general. And that's where you are. Frankly, you're in far greater danger in Russia than you are in the U.S., where you go back to the U.S., you get arrested, you bail yourself out, you do the lecture circuit, portraying yourself as a pretty little victim, which is, hey, that's right in your wheelhouse, for a couple of years before you go to trial. You go to trial, you get a lot of, this and that, you get to sort of boost yourself. You probably won't even get, a long jail sentence. You probably will be in jail for a lesser amount of time than even Maria Butina got. At this point, it would be within your best interest to go back to the U.S., but instead of staying in a country that's crumbling from economic sanctions. I do wonder, though, that maybe she isn't allowed to leave Russia. Maybe I wonder how heavily she's being monitored. I wonder if she's even allowed to go outside her apartment, because whenever she does, she seems to only do so to show certain outside parts of Moscow that drive home the narrative that Russia's doing fine, the sanctions aren't doing anything bad to Russia. I do wonder exactly how free she is in Russia right now, or if she's being monitored.
Interpol, which is red notices, which I really didn't understand what those were and how those mechanisms worked. And so she did a good job of kind of explaining how those work.
I just want to say why I asked. The reason I asked that question is because most of the journalists and others, actually anyone mostly, who's been detained in Russia, didn't run into any problems while they were there, but only usually at the airport when they attempted to leave. So I was just wondering if you had any concerns about that stuff. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. No, not at this moment.
Tara, can I just ask you a quick question? I'm sorry, just quickly.
Can I circle back to
sure.
you, Lev? I'll circle back to you. We have David with his hand up. David, I'll go to you. David, keep it brief.
Hey. Hey, Sarah and Indra and Sphinx, thank you guys for allowing me the space. And hello, everybody else, and Lev and Brian and Tara. So real quick, and I wanted to comment on this, and look, I respect Brian and Ed. We've communicated a lot on this platform. They've been nothing but gentlemen to me, and we get along really well. The one thing I want to caution about, though, and this is, I think, when Brian got on, and I understand there's something going on here between you guys and Tara, and I get all that. The thing is, and what I cringe to hear, is when we question a sexual assault victim's credibility. And
what? Wait, so you're just automatically, you everything you have to say is complete and total truth if you accuse someone of sexual assault? That's ridiculous. What is this ass kisser doing? Like, as soon as anyone accuses anything of sexual assault, we must never question her credibility or his credibility. What is that horse shit? No. Being an accuser does not mean you are incapable of lying. It's not if that person is uncredible. If that person has a history of flinging out rape accusations and flinging out serious accusations, yes, that person should be questioned. What is this horse shit? Oh my God.
And, as a lawyer, this is always like where the other side wants to go. And when it's always, question the accuser's credibility. And if you remember during the Christine Blasey Ford with Kavanaugh, to even question her credibility, which was reason to question it, was seen as if it was like, don't do it. We believe all victims.
But well, you just contradicted yourself there, David. You said we shouldn't question, but then you said that we should have.
No, I was going to make. I'm using that as an illustration to make a point. 1 second. I promise I'll be brief and I'll get to the point. But the thing is,
here's the thing: Dr. Christine Blasey Ford does not actually have a history of perjury. She does not have a history of flinging out rape accusations when she doesn't get her way. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. It was hard to corroborate what she was saying. Also, what she was saying had its own problems because I believe her. I do believe what she was saying. However, what she accused Kavanaugh of, Kavanaugh was a minor at the time. She said, and she knew this. She said, Kavanaugh was only 17. I was 15. He tried to sexually assault me. And making any person responsible for any action that person did while he was a minor is really dicey. If that person was a literal child at the time, should you really be bringing that up when that person is now in his 50s and apparently he has committed no crimes since then? The brain hasn't fully matured at the age of 17. That was the real problem with her accusation. Her accusation was true. The problem was, should we really use this against Justice Kavanaugh? Because what he did, first of all, I don't think it was an attempted assault that was done while he was drunk and while he was underage. That, in and of itself, is why that assault was problematic. Also, and this is very important, Dr. Christine Blasey Ford has absolutely no history of perjury. She has no history of fraud. She has no history of massive accusations. She just came in, she did her congressional testimony, and then she left. She hasn't done any interviews since then. I don't think she's even really popped up. She's not on social media, at least not that I can see. She sort of behaved in a way that I think was quite valid as a sexual assault victim. She made her accusations. She's not trying to use those accusations to boost herself. The accusations, even if it was an op, it failed. Justice Kavanaugh's now in the Supreme Court. He has a lifetime appointment. Like, she could just go on and say, oh, he did this, he did that, he did this, he did that. She could just go on all the circuits, but she hasn't. She was skinned alive by the right-wing media. She said, listen, I told my truth, it's on the record, now I'm going to go back to my life. She's perfectly entitled to that. I think she deserves that. There was really nothing op-like in her accusation, because her accusation involved actions where Justice Kavanaugh was a child, was only 17, and that in itself is problematic. It's very ethically iffy to hold an accusation that someone committed as a child against that person's adult career, especially since, in the case of Justice Kavanaugh, he committed no crimes since then, or even has really been accused of anything since then. There's been a few things, like when he was in college, one woman said, oh, I think he put his dick in front of my face, and then I was drunk and I touched his dick accidentally. That in and of itself, but I'm not quite sure. I didn't even see him. It was just what some other people said. I was very drunk at the time. That's not really much of an accusation. I believe her, but that's not much of an accusation. She didn't even see him. She herself, by her own admission, was drunk. So there's just too much iffiness there. With Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, we believed her because, first of all, she was corroborated both by Kavanaugh's own calendars and by the fact that, yeah, they went to parties together. This was very believable, and also just by what the culture of the early 80s was like when it came to teen parties. You cannot say that just because someone accuses someone of sexual assault, the accuser must never be questioned. No, of course not. If you are accused of sexual assault, you have every right to question your accuser. You need to know who the person is who accused you. You should not get all your rights stripped away if you're accused of sexual assault. You should know who your accuser is, and if your accuser has a long history of fraud and of flinging serious accusation, that accuser also needs to be brought to account. What David Pollock is saying here is absolutely ridiculous.
Is when it comes to situations where, so with Kavanaugh, it was let's not question credibility, but when it seems, and this is my perception, I'm not trying not to be partisan, but I'm giving the other perspective, is if a Democrat is accused, if it's Bill Clinton, or if it's Joe Biden, or if it's somebody else.
Oh, yeah, notice how he's not saying Senator Al Franken, because Al Franken was forced to resign. Notice how he's not saying Governor Andrew Cuomo, because Andrew Cuomo was forced to resign. And with Bill Clinton, he was accused back in the 90s, where that was a little more, there was not much sympathy for accusers. And also keep in mind, when Juanita Broderick came forward, I do believe Juanita Broderick, but she came forward like during the last year of his presidency, in his second term. So he was not going to be president no matter what. It was the last year of his presidency. We were about to have the year 2000 election and all that mess. Notice that David Pollock has not shown that within the past 5 years, the only people who have been badly affected by sexual assault accusations have been Democrats. They've always been Democrats. The Democrats have been forced to resign. New York AG Eric Schneiderman, accused, and credibly, I believe his accusers, it was done credibly, resigned. Andrew Cuomo, forced to resign. Senator Al Franken, forced to resign, and then his accuser was debunked. The only people who have been forced to resign because of sexual assault allegations have been Democrats. Republicans have stayed on. Trump stayed on. Matt Gaetz stayed on. He knows this. David Pollock knows this. That's why he stopped after Bill Clinton and Joe Biden. Because he knew if he started talking about other Democratic politicians who have been accused, his point would crumple to the ground. He would say like, oh right, they did all resign. It's the Republicans who are not resigning, even though they have many credible allegations against them.
There's always this instinct to, well, hold on, and let's question the victim's credibility. And it's the same thing with...
Yeah, because the burden is on the accuser. If you're making the accusation, you have to bring the receipts, the corroboration, the evidence. You can't just make the accusation and put the burden on the accused to try and protect himself or herself.
With the system of justice, too, it seems as if, and Brian had a great post, and he makes good points, and on his post he mentioned, he's like, Biden was accused of this, Hillary was accused of this, but Trump was indicted. And all that is true, but the perception from...
What? Hillary Clinton was grilled for 12 hours in front of Congress. The reason why she wasn't indicted was that the evidence didn't stack up against her. Once you got past all the partisan politics, the evidence wasn't there. Same with Joe Biden. Well, he may be indicted at this. I doubt he will be. From what I can see of the evidence, it also appears to be a bit of a nothing burger. It's just the GOP scrambling to put anything in front of the public whenever the very real evidence of what happened with Trump stealing national security documents, what happened with Trump when it came to essentially trying to put together an illegal insurrection and stay in government via coup. Trump, with the evidence against Trump, it's very, very, very clear. That's why Trump was indicted, because he actually broke the law.
On my side of the aisle is, yes, that's right. Hillary was accused of this. Biden was accused of this. But yet only Trump was charged. And it's the same thing when we look at the second...
David, he wasn't only charged. He actually lost. He actually lost the case where he was convicted of basically, not criminally, but civilly, that he sexually assaulted Jean E. Carroll. So Trump is not just indicted. I mean, he's a sexual assault as far as the world is concerned, and that's fact.
Wait, so is being indicted a sign of innocence, and not being indicted is a sign of guilt? This is so bizarre. What they're trying to do is say, like, oh, Democrats never get consequences. But of course they do. The thing is that the Republicans have been breaking the law at far greater rates than the Democrats at this point. Several people in Bill Clinton's administration had to go to jail for charges that were much smaller than charges that people in Trump's administration are currently facing. Right now, essentially, who was that guy? Anthony Weiner, who played a role in the Obama administration, had to go to jail because he sent like dick pics to an underage person. Yeah, he went to jail because he deserved to go to jail. Consequently, Trump is indicted because he deserves to be indicted, because he literally had top secret national security papers involving our nuclear codes, involving our nuclear weaponry, stacked up in his bathroom. He stole the documents. He said repeatedly he had returned them. He did not. He simply stole them. He was keeping them in the house. He was hiding them. That's why he got indicted. And Trump literally was trying to take over the government by coup. He stood in front of a massive crowd of people and said, you're going to go to the Capitol building. You're going to go to the Capitol building, and we're not going to allow the transfer of power. And 5 people were killed that day. Police officers were injured severely to the point where they had permanent damage. People were beaten. Police officers were beaten. And yeah, Trump possibly will be indicted for that too. Indictment is a sign of guilt. It means there is just no way we can ignore this evidence. We can't just let presidents walk free because they're presidents. If there is overwhelming evidence, there has to be an indictment. The reason why Hillary Clinton was never indicted was that the evidence just didn't point that way. They could not find enough evidence to indict her.
No, it's a good point. I'm not speaking of the civil case, but on the criminal matters. But what I'm speaking to is we're going down a path in this country, in my perception, and I just wanted to kind of mention it, that to most people, and maybe it's just me because I'm a conservative, but it does appear that there's two.
Well, yeah, because you're a conservative. Yeah, you clearly you're repeating GOP and conservative talking points. It's ridiculous. I mean, it was shown that way when you said like, oh, Biden had accusations and Clinton had accusations, but they didn't resign. And you didn't go further than that, saying, what about Senator Al Franken? He did resign. I've been over that before. I'm not going to repeat myself. Let's hear what this jackass has to say.
Systems of justice. There's 2 systems of accusations. There's 2 systems of credibility. And I think that's damaging.
Yeah, 2 systems of justice? No, there's 1 system of justice. If there's not enough evidence to indict you, you don't get indicted. If there is enough evidence to indict you, you will get indicted. Do you know, like, that's how the system of justice works. I mean, people want to arrest DeSantis, but there's no evidence to arrest him, so he's not getting arrested. If there is enough evidence against you, you will be indicted. There is no 2 systems of justice. There's just 1 system of justice. If there's enough evidence, if the evidence points in that direction, and the offense is serious enough, you're going to get indicted.
Because once we go down this road of, well, should we believe this person or not believe this person? Is this person a criminal or is this not a criminal? And once we start going down this road of whether questioning people...
Is this person a criminal or is this not a criminal? That's literally what the justice system is. Is this person break the law or did this person not break the law? And he's like, once we go down this road of saying, is this person a criminal or is this person not a criminal? What is the justice system then? What a ridiculous talking point. Who did they scrape this guy up from? He's just such a... Damn, you know what? He's another potato. I'm going to put him with Rhoda Sterling. David Pollock. You know what? Pollock, he's a fish. He's a fish. He's just a fish.
Integrity based on political affiliation. We get to a place where it doesn't feel like there is justice. And that's why when I think we should detach the previous instances with whatever was going on between Ed and Brian and Tara from this other situation with Joe Biden, because I don't know what happened in there, and I don't even want to know. I don't want to...
Okay. So David Pollock appears to be coming in to run interference because he realized that Tara Reade's entire case just collapsed when Ed and Brian basically pinned her down with her false accusation against them and showed her to not be credible. So when she's not credible with her accusation against Ed and Brian, that shows really badly why she's not credible with her accusation against Biden. And now Pollack is swimming in here and saying like, oh, no. There shouldn't be this two-tiered system of justice where, are you a criminal, are you not a criminal? And just because she lied about the Krassensteins doesn't mean she lied about Biden, even though that's basically what's happening. So, he's trying to do damage control for Tara Reid, it looks like.
To get into it right now. But what I do know is that Tara makes some serious accusations against Joe Biden, and a lot of people have made similar accusations against Joe Biden. And if there is...
No. A lot of people have not made similar accusations against Joe Biden. If he's talking about the woman who said Joe Biden violated my personal space, we've already spoken upon that. But yeah, they never accused Biden of doing something illegal. 8 women, including Tara Reid, said, hey, he hugged me, he rested his hand on my shoulder, he played with my hair, he kissed the top of my head. This is sort of acceptable, affectionate behavior by men in the 80s and 90s, which was Biden's heyday. Now it's not acceptable. Even that sort of behavior is seen as, you know what, this is a violation of personal space. Could you stop doing that? And Biden said, okay. Biden released a statement saying, listen, I'm going to have to amend my behavior. This sort of thing is clearly not really acceptable anymore. That's what happened in 2019. Then in 2020, when Biden didn't drop out, and Biden continued to win primary election after primary election on Super Tuesday, and the Kremlin realized that their boy, Bernie Sanders, was not going to get the Democratic nomination anymore, they went back to Tara Reid and said, listen, you're going to have to add a little more juice to your accusation. You're going to have to bump it up to the R word that rhymes with tape. And you're going to have to craft together a narrative to make sure that Biden drops out. Because we saw what happened with Senator Al Franken. Even if the accuser is not credible, the Democrats will make their own resign. We want you to bump Biden out of the race by putting together a false rape accusation against him. Say, hey, listen, I only accused him of resting his hand on my shoulder in 2019, but I'm going to change that story a bit and say oh yeah, he also raped me. Sorry, I didn't mention that before. That's what Tara Reid did in March of 2020. It was an opt to get Biden out of the primary race. She was debunked. She was seen as uncredible. And no, there were the 7 other women in 2019 who accused Biden of violating their personal space. These were very credible accusations because, yeah, look at the tapes. Biden's kind of a huggy guy. They never changed their stories. Do you know why they never changed their stories? Because they were telling the truth. They were telling the truth. And these were not similar to the R word that rhymes with tape. Only Tara Reid decided to change her story to include an incident that she said was rape. Because she needed to do that because the Kremlin told her to do that in order to bump Biden out of the primary race and install Bernie Sanders. This is, I have to say allegedly here, but basically everyone knows that's what actually happened.
A propensity of Joe Biden having inappropriate behavior with women. The fact that the media tends to bury this versus if it was Trump, it would be on the front page of every news.
No, the media didn't bury it. The fact is Trump has so many accusers, we've forgotten about a lot of them. We know about E. Jean Carroll because her case is still ongoing, but there are women who said that Trump backed them up against a wall and kissed them against their will, and Trump said, no, that never happened because she's way too ugly. The media has sort of forgotten about Stormy Daniels. So, to be fair, Stormy Daniels never accused Trump of assault. She said that she had an affair with Trump, which is not illegal. But still, she got a lot of backlash from Trump, from the right-wing media. She even got arrested by pro-Trump cops. The only illegal thing there was that she received a payoff by Trump. That is illegal, I think, in response to her not going forward. That's a complicated thing. I'm not really going to go into that. There have been so many Trump accusers. There have been so many Trump accusers, and they all came forward in 2016, and they haven't really spoken out since, because why should they? Why should they incur his wrath? Why should they expose themselves again? They came forward, they told their truth, now they're living their lives. And the media has forgotten about them, mostly because they haven't really been continuing to speak out. Again, why should they? You can Google them, you can find them, they're there, but otherwise, they haven't really been speaking out. They're living their lives, they already spoke their truth. The thing is that, the media has never buried what Biden has done. The right-wing media is taking every hug, every sort of handshake, every baby kiss that Biden does, and Fox News mostly has been recasting it as this perversity. When kissing babies or shaking hands or giving hugs was part and parcel of being a politician for as long as you can remember, way back into the 19th century. And people are saying the media is burying it. Like, they say the media is burying Tara Reid, when Tara Reid has just exposed herself as being someone who's not credible. The media is not going to pursue someone who is not credible. That exposes the news organization covering her to their own legal liabilities. That exposes them legally to whatever Joe Biden may wish to do. Saying, you're smearing me, you're slandering me, you're continuing to cover this woman when it was clear she was not credible. That's not called burying. That's called debunking. Why should the media continue to cover a hoax?
Newspaper. I think that's a problem. I think if we're going to apply the standard.
But David, I think you're the one that's politicizing it right now because you're saying what aboutism. So if it was Trump, they would do it. I mean,
Thank you, Lev. Lev, always coming here with a clear-sighted perspective. Thank you, Lev Parnas.
It shouldn't be Trump or Biden. I mean, if somebody has an accusation of sexual assault, I think it should be investigated. It should be definitely, if the person is guilty, should be proven guilty. It shouldn't matter if it's Trump, Biden, or whoever it is. It shouldn't be politicized. But I think what we're talking about here, and the reason why Tara is here, is because there's a lot of people that doubt her credibility, not because of what she's saying about Biden as much, even though it's a huge accusation, but because of other things and other comments that she's been making alongside of it. And you start doubting credibility when a person starts getting caught up in different lies. And that's why I think she's being questioned on this.
Exactly right. Now, we're going to stop here because that was another 30-minute block. We are now at exactly an hour 30. So we are now halfway through this Spaces conversation. I'm going to cut it off here. I'm going to upload. I hope you have a wonderful week. I know it's a Monday. Enjoy your Monday. And we will talk to you again later.